hallux valgus is simply the big toe that moves, that migrates laterally, and ends up coming over this direction, and it creates a bunion at the base of the big toe. And that's more of a visual. Yuki's got hallux valgus. Okay, so the big toe moves that direction. All right, thanks. All right, so to take care of it, what you can do is put a pad in between the toes to straighten them. Tape the toes, tape over the top so you hold the pad in place, and then have them do flexion and extension exercises to strengthen the flexion and extension.
To kind of push it back out.
Yeah, to try and strengthen those muscles to hold it back in place. Now, in extreme cases, it's a done deal. They have to have surgery. But if it's pretty minor, then you might be able to strengthen those tendons to help hold that back into place. But people that have that problem tend to wear pads in between their toes to straighten it out, to take off the stress off and the pain, get rid of the pain. But most of the time, it's go to the doc and get it taken care of.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next thing?
Plantar
Fascia strain or plantar fasciitis, either one of those. You simply, the plantar fascia attaches from the heel all the way up to the metatarsal heads, and then they kind of spread out also into the toes. In fact, the fascia itself starts down here and comes up, and then kind of starts to spread out. Sorry, you're ticklish. Then spreads out to all the med heads, and then to some of the phalanges. But all you have to do is this: put your finger here and palpate. And if they have a strain of the plantar fascia or plantar fasciitis, inflammation of, that will be painful. Sometimes all I have to do is put my finger at the very base and push, and they'll go, ow.
Yeah.
And then I'll verify and go, does it hurt up here and here and here and here? And they'll go, oh yeah, that's even worse.
Okay.
All right. So if they have that, you've got to, if it's an itis, if they've had it for over a long period of time, you have to figure out how you can get it under control and get rid of it. Support, okay, either taping or, again, arch supports. We've got pads, arch pads that we have available. But generally, I'll tell them, go get an insert for your shoes. But if it's a short, quick fix, it's probably going to be tape their ankle. Tape their arch. But also, if it's an itis or even a strain, anti-inflammatories will help immensely. Help maybe calm it down a little bit, but they've got to get off their feet too.
Yeah, to kind of
and you got to identify what do you do. What is it? I went and ran the marathon, or I went and hiked Mount Wilson, or I hiked Whitney or whatever. So they have to reevaluate, what their daily activities are.
Some of the research I've been doing for the was saying that you could use also. There's like a chondroitin or like a joint support, like
Chondroitin.
There you go. That they can use that in those pills, and it helps reduce inflammation as well. And it works as the same as NSAIDs without the negative effects.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm doing more research on it, and I'll be putting it in the paper. But I just want to see if you've heard anything about that.
No, I haven't. So let me know what you find.
Okay.
Oh, I guess maybe you just did.
Yeah, we have to do that.
Well,
A Jones fracture is a fracture at the base of the fifth metatarsal. So here's the fifth metatarsal. All right. All you have to do to find the base is take your hand and run it along, and when you get to that bump, and everyone's got one, you get to the bump, you go right to the front of the bump and just push. And that's where a Jones fracture will be located, right in front of that little bump. Okay, that tubercle is what it would be known as, and send them for an X-ray. Okay, that one's that simple. Metatarsal fracture, stress fracture, or even a metatarsal fracture. Now, metatarsal stress fractures we see most commonly in the second and third metatarsals. Okay, in through here. All we're going to do is palpate up the bone. Okay, I'm going to come up the bone on the second and third. If I think there might be a stress fracture in any other metatarsals, I'll get on those and palpate up those. But the two that we see most often are the second and third. All right. Now, sorry, I will come up the front, up top, but there's, okay, pull your toes back. See these? Pull them back.
Yeah.
Well, you can see this one pretty good, this tendon. Okay, so there's tendons on top of the toes. Okay, relax. So to avoid that, just in case the problem is on the tendon, I'll come from the side and catch the side a little bit on both of them. Okay, and if I walk up and they go ouch, and then nothing, then they're point tender in one spot, again, bony tissue, it tells me a lot. And we're probably going to send them for, if I think it's a metatarsal fracture, I'll send them for an x-ray, just like if I think it's a Jones fracture. If it's a stress fracture, you have to hook them up with somebody that is knowledgeable in is aware of what stress fractures are and how to deal with them, because they won't show on an x-ray right away.
Yeah.
It won't show until it starts to heal.
Yeah.
So many times we've sent them to get looked at. We've had to send them to their own doctor because of the insurance we're dealing with, and they come back, no, there's no stress fracture. There's no fracture. It's probably soft tissue, and we know darn well it's not.
Yeah.
That it's a stress fracture. Okay. So a bone scan would tell us the tale, but a lot of insurance companies won't go there. Morton's toe is simply, and he doesn't have it, one toe. The second toe is longer than the first. Oh, maybe he does. Okay, so if this toe is a little bit longer than the first toe, it's called Morton's toe. And when you do have that toe a little longer, then the second metatarsal takes on a more important role of weight bearing, and those bones aren't built for that. And so they're set up for the possibility of stress fractures because there's more stress on them.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Do they do surgery to fix that, or do they just deal with that?
Nope.
Or
No.
wrap it, or?
Sometimes they'll put in maybe a little bit of a metatarsal pad to put a little bit more support, but sometimes they may just say, instead of being a runner, why don't you be a biker?
She's kind of stay off her feet a little bit.
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So stress fracture is always point tenderness, correct? Like only when
Oh, yeah.
only
yeah.
when it's one
One spot.
Okay.
As is a fracture.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we're looking at when we're looking for any kind of fracture whatsoever. We're looking for point tenderness. Now, if you have a pretty good sized bone that just like literally gets pulverized, just goes, then chances are you're not gonna get point tender. It's gonna be tender all over the place. But then the key is, do they lose range of motion? It's painful, but they also don't want to move it. And that makes me real suspicious. I've seen that before too. So, all right, the last one?
Turf toe.
Turf toe. Turf toe is simply a sprain of the big toe, of the MP joint, okay? Metatarsal phalangeal joint. And to identify it, you simply do this. Push the foot or the toe into hyperextension and see if they don't like it. In real extreme cases, you go back and you can keep going, and the damage will be so severe that it will actually tear the joint capsule.
Wow.
All right. So what do? We tape it to try and avoid extension. We take tape around like this. I like to take my tape and unroll it quite a ways. I have them separate their toes with their fingers because most people can't do this. And I come around. So I come around the toe like this with my tape, and then I come down and around, and I usually have an anchor right here, and I'll come down and around and crisscross and come around and attach it to my anchor, and then they pull against the tape. Okay, so here's my tape, and they try to pull back and extend their toe. And I want it to be able to go to neutral, but I don't want it to go much beyond neutral so that they can't go into hyperextension, which is painful to them. And I'd probably do a couple of layers to make sure that, and maybe offset them a little bit, not put one right on top of the other. I'd offset them just a little bit so that I could provide enough support and hold this in place. Okay? Good?
Thank you.
All righty.